Welcome back to a brand new video with my new to me Escort Cosworth. The car is everything I've ever wanted, apart from it doesn't work, it doesn't run, it keeps cutting out. So in this video, fingers crossed, we're going to try and fix it and find out exactly why it keeps cutting out and why I can't drive it. So I thought I'd start by cleaning some of the sensors out, and the way I'd done it was I disconnected the sensor, sprayed some brake cleaner in, then I sprayed some WD-40 in, then I blew it out with the airline just to try and clean it, plugged it back in and see how we'll get on. So you'll notice if I leave the car running, it does cut out by itself, and when it does cut out, the fuel pump is still running, so that tells us the fuel pump is not the issue. If we leave the car to cool down for about 10 minutes, it will restart, and with some help from Andy Gallagher in Scotland, he recommended checking some parts with the multimeter, and you can see with the car running, the fuel injectors are getting the full power from the alternator, which is over 13 volts, and when it cuts out, it drops down to battery power, so that's telling us we've still got power to the injectors when it cuts out. I then went on to check the coils on the car. Right, so we're still getting 12 volts to the coil and we're getting 12 volts to the injectors, even though I'm guessing if I try and start it now it won't start. So the next step was to get a Noid light set, and this is an electronic fuel injection test light set, and what you do is you disconnect the electrical connector from your injector and plug the Noid light in and start the car. Now the car will run on 3 cylinders, but what the Noid light does is it shows you when the injector will be pulsing fuel into the engine. If the Noid light doesn't light up, that tells you the injector isn't firing fuel in. I also ran exactly the same test with the Noid light on the coil, and that would simulate the spark of the spark plug. Right, so with the Noid light, you can see we're getting it flashing when we're cranking it for the spark for the injectors and for the coil. So we'll leave it running till it cuts out, then we'll plug this back in and see what we're not getting the light lighting up for. If the coil's not lighting up or the injectors, we can then take it from there. So as predicted, if we leave the car running, it does just cut out, and when it cuts out you can hear the fuel pump is still running. So we'll plug that Noid light in. In theory the car, if it wasn't broke, should still run. It should still run on 3 cylinders. We've just connected one injector, so like I say, it should run on 3 cylinders. Let's see, this should still light up. If it doesn't light up, we've got a problem. So with the Noid light not lighting up here, that's telling us the fuel injectors aren't firing fuel in to start the engine. Right, so that's not lighting up. Let's now try that on the coil. And on the coil you can see that is also not lighting up, which means the spark plugs aren't sparking. Right fellas, so we're going to have to buy some parts, and we're going to start with a crank sensor to see if we can get the car running. Now a crank sensor for a small turbo Escort Cosworth is £112 on eBay, but apparently a Z-Tech, like a Ford Z-Tech engine crank sensor will fit. This was £30, so we're going to take the one off the car, put this on, see if it works. Cross your fingers for us. Let's start by getting the car on the ramp and up in the air. I am still very nervous using this 2-post ramp. I imagine it's going to squash us one day, but let's hope it's not a day, and let's get this crank sensor changed. And if you don't know what a crank sensor is, it's basically a sensor that tells the ECU on the car the position of the crankshaft in a certain spot, that tells the injectors when to fire and the spark plugs when to spark. And let's remove our crank sensor. The first step is to disconnect it from the engine loom, and then get a 13mm spanner and squeeze my fat hands in to disconnect the crankshaft sensor bracket from the engine. Right, so here is the small turbo Escort Cosworth crankshaft sensor, and you can see how much that's sticking out. About 13mm. So if we can get this one about the same, then hopefully it'll work. And like I say, this is off a Z-Tech, or it's actually off a Focus ST170. So if we see if we can get this, what's hopefully knackered, out of here. And you can see over the years someone's pried it with a screwdriver, so I think we'll join suit. There we go. So there is the crankshaft sensor of the Cosworth. Here is the Z-Tech one. I think what we'll do is we'll chop that little bracket, see that little where it must hold on the Z-Tech, and obviously it's not on the Cosworth, so we'll chop that off so it doesn't get in the way. And that should slide into there. So there is the new centre in. You can see the old one. Only difference really being the angle that it comes out, and I've chopped that bit off. But hopefully that should do the trick. It's nice and tight in there. It's the same diameter as the old one what we took out. So in theory that should work. Let's get it on the car. To refit the crank sensor, it's pretty easy. It's just a case of doing up two 13mm bolts. Then we'll cross our fingers and see if the car starts. Right, so the car starts. Let's leave it running and cross your fingers it doesn't cut out. Normally once the car gets up to temperature, it'll cut out with the old crankshaft sensor on. With this one, well, like I say, we'll put a Ford Focus one on. So let's see if it works. It is obviously working at the minute. So now that we've got the car running and driving, like we can drive it for a distance it won't cut out, it is still a bit spluttery on tick over. So let's have a look at that and see if we can sort the tick over out on the car. So I thought I'd start by removing the idle speed control valve. This is held in place by two 10mm bolts. And my thinking was, with this car being sat for like 7 years, maybe it's got a bit gunked up and dirty. So let's take it off, strip it down and clean it. Right, so we've got the sensor off the valve. It all appears to be moving fine, but I think what we'll do is we'll just put some brake cleaner in and just clean it out, just so we can rule this part out that's been broken. This is just a bit of brake cleaner what I'm squirting in, fellas. This is ideal for removing dirty old oil deposits. Let's get this back on the car. So to refit the idle speed control valve, it's just a case of bolting it back up with the two 10mm bolts and refitting the electrical connector in the back. Let's fire the car up and see if it's still running like a bag of spanners on tick over. So as you can see, fellas, the car is still not happy on tick over. Let's try something else. So with the car being sat for 6 years, in here I've got a brand new fuel filter for the car. Now they are different on an Escort Cosworth to like a Sapphire or a 3-door. So they're a lot bigger. So there we have the new fuel filter. I was hoping it was going to come with the crush washers, but it hasn't, so hopefully, oh there's the crush washers in there, so it should seal. So let's get under the car we've got on the lift and get this new fuel filter fitted. This fuel filter was a bit of a pig to remove. One end had all the original metal banjo bolts and they'd gone rusty, but I did manage to undo them. But the other end, someone had fitted an aero quip fitting and the spanner was starting to slip and lose the hex on the aero quip fitting, so it was even worse to remove. Right, so this aero quip fitting is starting to feel, it's all aluminium and you can see it's all kind of rotted away there, and to be honest it looks knackered up here as well. So I think if we can get this off, we'll replace this kind of fitting. I've never used these before, and to be honest I would rather there was steel than aluminium. But let's see if we can get this off. Obviously we can't use a grinder because it's fuel. I'll end up with a burnt down garage. But let's see if we can get this off without making any more of a mess. This full thing's just twisting, it doesn't appear to be unscrewing. There we go. Right, so we've just stripped that bolt, so we need to find another way of getting it off. Now obviously it's full of fuel, so I don't really want to use a grinder.
But you know what they say, fellas, go big or go home. So it's out with the angle grinder, and if it backfires and blows fire in my face, I'll have to get my eyebrows tattooed back on.
So as you can see, we've ground down the head of the bolt, so let's get a flathead screwdriver in there and see if that'll pop open. There we go. Look at that, a rusty fuel filter. This filter, it must be well over 10-year-old. You can see it's been on when they've shulced underneath the car. So next what we need to do is remove this bit of screw that's still stuck in. That's what clamps it. That's where the bolt header strip was. So we need to remove. It's stuck now. There we go. We need to remove this bit of screw that's still in there. So to remove the bit of screw, I did try some pliers, I tried some mole grips, and it just wasn't cutting it. So the only thing left to do was to get the hot glue gun out, weld the nut on, then try and turn it off gently with the nut welded on.
So let's get a 5mm nut, get the MIG welder and try and stick it onto the top of the screw that I've just ground off.
So that wasn't a good success. I've welded the nut to the pliers.
Right, let's have another go. Another nut. Let's see how this works. Looks better. Let's get a socket on it. Oh, it just fell off. Let's have another go. Nope, that's welded to the pliers.
Another
go. Nope, same again. Another go. Yes. Come on, gently does it. Ah, it fell off. Not getting very good at this, fellas. That's another nut knackered. Now I appear to have welded my spanner to the nut on this one, and it doesn't work. So we've got quite a collection in the end. Now I think the heat must have loosened the screw, so with my mole grips I was able to gently go backwards and forwards and eventually get the screw out of the bracket.
Yes! So as for the original banjo fitting that someone had fitted to the fuel filter, I just got a pair of tin snips and chopped it off. To be honest, it was a bit rotten, it was a bit corroded, and it wasn't any good. I would rather use something a bit more simple. I always think if you overcomplicate things, there's more to go wrong. So let's see, we chopped it off and we'll replace it with something else.
You can see here where it's oxidised and starting to fall to bits. This could just cause a fuel leak and cause a fire. So the only place this is going to go is in the bin. So if you've watched any of my videos before, you'll know I love a bit of sandblasting. So we took the bracket to work, put it in the sandblaster and blew every bit of rust, old paint, crud and everything off the bracket. And as it's bare steel, we'll take it home, clean it down with some panel wipe / degreaser. Then we'll take it outside to my paint booth and we'll give it a good coat with some satin black paint. Then we'll leave it outside to dry for a couple of hours and move on to another job.
For the next job, we're going to change these reg plates. Honestly, GB plates to me are one of the worst human inventions since men's Ugg boots. So what we're going to do is, we're going to get rid of these manky GB plates, and we've got some nice dealer plates from DMB Graphics. These are actually got like, that's what the car would have left the dealership with from you. So it's got the dealership at the bottom. If you want some of your own dealer plates from DMB Graphics, I will leave a link to DMB below. But let's get rid of these GB plates and hide these in the bin. Right, so to start, let's remove the cap and the screw that hold the plates to the car. Oh no, it must be stuck on. Oh, there we go. Oh no, someone drilled the boot lid to put the plates on. Now before we stick the new plates on, I'm just going to give it a quick polish behind the bumper, just for my own peace of mind. So this is actually where the reg plate should mount, but it looks like it's still got masking tape on there in the hole off when it's being painted. So I don't know, we'll leave the masking tape on and I'm going to reuse these holes what some absolute animal has drilled into the boot lid. Right, so we've got the old reg plate here and it did sit alright, it wasn't on the cockeyedness, on the piss. So what we're going to do is we're going to reuse the holes. I was tempted to stick it on with some reg plate tape, but I don't want to pull any paint off. So we're going to drill the reg plates and stick them back on the way they were when I got the car. So let's say I'm going to reuse the holes because they did sit alright. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the new reg plate on the back of the old reg plate. I'm putting them back to back so when I drill through it doesn't push the sticker off the back of the new reg plate. Then with the masking tape we'll stick them together. Like that. We'll do the other side. Same again with the masking tape, fellas. Line them up. Like that. Then we'll get a drill bit that's about the same size as the hole that's in the reg plate. Put in our drill. Set the drill to drill. And bang it all in. Then we'll do the second hole. I'm not putting any real weight on this, fellas, I'm letting the drill do the work. There we go. Then we'll take the tape off. And to put the plates on the back of the car, I've got some new caps and some screws here. Let's see, I've cleaned the back of the car so it's ready to go straight on. Then we'll just remove the protective film from the new plates. I'm also just going to put a little bit of grease on the end of the screw because I don't want the hole to go rusty on my boot lid. Right fellas, I'm sure you'll agree, them plates look a lot better than these GB ones. Right, looks like the front one has been stuck on by some absolute barbarian. Ah, God, what they got this on with? Oh no. Right, so I've got the front plate off and it's even pulled off the little bumper inserts that hold the bumper screws, cap cover things. So we'll pull these off. Ah. Tell you what, this is some good reg plate tape. Ah. Oh no man, it's pulled the paint off the cap. Fortunately it'll be hidden behind the reg plate. Right, we'll put them back in here. Like that. And that. Now we need to clean up this absolute disaster. Right, so to clean the bumper we're going to use one of these. This is called a toffee wheel. I don't know if it's called a toffee wheel because it looks like toffee or it smells like toffee. Maybe it's a combination of the two. But I'm going to use it in a battery drill. I'm not going to use an electric drill because electric drills are kind of faster and I don't want to burn the paint. So we're going to go nice and slow and hopefully remove all this reg plate tape with the toffee wheel. We'll put it on setting 1 so it's quite slow. If you want your own toffee wheel, fellas, I will leave a link on Amazon below where you can get your own. So once I'd removed all the manky reg plate tape with the toffee wheel, I then give the bumper a quick clean with some car polish just to remove the old clinkers, just so we've got a nice clean surface to stick the new reg plate to. Right fellas, you might notice there's actually no holes in the bumper to stick a reg plate to, so I think we might have to use some reg plate tape. We'll certainly not be putting as much on as that, but we'll put a bit on, and I'm going to avoid putting it on the caps that hold the bumper on. Right, then we'll peel the plastic covering off, like that. Oh, nearly, like that. If anyone's got some tips on getting this straight, leave it in the comments for next time I do it. Right, so if I put my fingers like that. That's on, we'll take this cover off. Ha! How much better does that look than loads better. Like I say fellas, if you want your own plates, DMB Graphics, link in the description. So we've got the fuel pump bracket all cleaned up, and we've also got some new fittings for the fuel filter. So there's one banjo bolt, I'm sure I ordered two of them, obviously not, and also then in here we've also got some more fittings for the fuel filter. Before I fit the new fuel filter, I'm going to quickly run a tap down these threads to clean them up. And we'll take that out. Then we'll get the new fuel filter out of the packet. You can see it's got to go a certain way, it's got a flow rate, so you want your fuel in and your fuel out. Just put the new fuel filter in. Then I've got a new screw to go on there. There is the new fuel filter in the reconditioned bracket. A lot nicer fellas, a lot nicer. Right, so under the car, from the fuel hose, let's remove this bolt I put in to stop the fuel coming out. Then we'll put this fuel clip on, followed by a new bolt thing, like a, forget what you call these, like a banjo bolt. Then with the new clamp clamped up, we'll give this a good tug, make sure it's not going to come out, and that is nice and tight in there. Then next, with the new washers that were supplied with the fuel filter, we'll fit the washers with the new bolts. And you can see there's two different size washers for two different size bolts. The washers are made from aluminium, so they actually compress when you tighten it, and that's what stops the fuel from leaking out. Right, there's the fuel filter fitted. Let's see if the car will start. Right, so as you can see, the car's running. We'll check underneath for fuel leaks. And it appears that is a successful fuel filter change. Right fellas, now with the new fuel filter fitted, it is unfortunately still spluttering and missing on takeover. For the next job, one of the most common questions I get is, Adam, when are you going to fix that gap in the front bumper? Can you say, hey, it's actually dropped down, it's not connected. It is an easy fix. All we need is one of these. One of these. I've had this all the time. It's just something that's never really bothered us. But I'll show you how we'll fix it. So in order to fix a bumper and to make it easy for me and easy for you guys to see what I'm doing, I'm going to put the car on my new 2-post lift and get it in the air. Right, so you can see there fellas where this clip goes, it just goes in that little hole up there. So if we push the bumper where we want it, and we'll put that in, turn it, like that. And you can see there fellas, we've got a lot better of a gap on the front bumper. That is the driver's side and that's the passenger side. Both looking exactly the same. Right, so the car isn't cutting out anymore. It is still like a bit lumpy, a bit spluttery on tick over. But yet again, thanks to everyone that watches, thanks to everyone who makes a small donation to the channel via the PayPal link below. But thanks for watching fellas, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.